you listen to the critics, if you listen to your own doubts and call them reasons, you may never find the drive to go back to school. But a little change in direction, a new perspective, and the right program may make your successful new path a reality. The Accelerated Degree Program at Albright College. Start your degree or complete your degree one night a week in as little as 2 years. Albright College. A different way of thinking.
Good evening, and welcome to the Albright Scholar for February 2017. My name is John Pankratz. I teach history at Albright, and each month it's my privilege to welcome BCTV viewers and residents of Greater Reading to take a glimpse inside our learning community up here on North 13th Street, to look at the work being done by teachers and students and to think about its impact upon all of us. Well, the icy fang and churlish chiding of the winter wind is really nipping at us here in Berks County tonight. It's very cold. So we thought we'd do you all a favor and waft you several thousand miles south of here to Central America, to the nation of Costa Rica, and talk with 5 of my colleagues who have been, who've just returned a few weeks ago from an interim research class down at Albright's research station in Costa Rica. So we'll look forward to being warmed and informed by your recollections of that experience. With me on my left, Steve Meck, Professor of Biology and Chair of the Department at Albright. Junior, Justin Hoffman, who is a biochemistry major, but also an inveterate bat researcher. Tia Camarada, who is a senior bio major at Albright, and Elise Vogel, who is also a senior bio-Spanish major. And then finally, Dr. Karen Campbell, who's the Kenneth Nace Professor of Biology at Albright. Welcome to all of you. Welcome back to Steve and to Karen, who've been on the show. We're trying to remember whether Justin was on the show before. Maybe the viewers can call in and remind us if they saw his face before. But it's fabulous to have you here. As I looked over the interim classes, yours was among the most scenic and I think one of the most exciting. And I sort of followed your progress on social media as you went about your research, but I'm eager to hear about how it went. Karen, let's start with you. What was the overall purpose of the class?
Well, it was the first opportunity that we'd had to use the property in Costa Rica. Mm-hmm. And so the overall purpose, I think, was to see if we could make that work and to be able to...
As an educational setting, as a research setting.
Exactly, mm-hmm. Because we really hadn't been down there with students before, although both Steve and I had been there to visit and kind of check it out. We hadn't gone down with a dozen students, and that's always a different thing. Yeah. And also to make sure that it was be something that we could have the students learn something and be able to explore, and largely to explore the property and see what was there, but also to be able to compare it to the other different regions in Costa Rica that we visited on the way down.
So you moved around the nation.
Mm-hmm, yes, we did.
Yeah. Steve, tell us, how did Albright come into possession of this property?
Well, the property was a very generous gift from an alum, Max Jackson.
Max Jackson.
He had talked about giving it to us or with his family for some time, and then when a few years ago he decided to go ahead and give it to us. Mm-hmm. And he split the property. He still owns a section of the property, but he gave us the lion's share of the property, if you will, including the house, which is nice because it's got a couple of bedrooms and some space that we could convert into a bunk room and things like that. Mm-hmm. And so it was thanks to Max's generous gift that we were able to do this.
That's fabulous. So the hope is to really make this a part of the Albright campus in a global sense, and an interim class every year, or maybe a summer class, or maybe a couple different experiences?
Definitely an interim class, 'cause especially after this first experience, although this is going to be hard to beat. But yeah, definitely an interim class. It's a perfect place to be able to go down and spend a couple of weeks and be able to do field work and get the students really out into the field and learning about what's there and how to figure that out and how to kind of plan a field experience and conduct it. Summertime might be a better opportunity to be able to do programs in other majors, because when we're down there in January, school is not in session.
Right.
So the opportunity for us to be able to work with school students and to be able to do things in the classroom there is pretty limited. So we were kind of talking with faculty from other majors to be able to see what might happen during the rest of the year.
In Spanish or history or
Exactly.
Other fields as well.
Yeah.
All the social sciences as well.
Exactly. Yes.
How great, how great.
Yeah.
Well, when I saw the list of students who were going, I said, you are going to have a great year because you guys are famous as really outstanding classroom students, but also experienced researchers. Justin, how did this trip fit in with your major and your program of study here?
So obviously I'm a biochemistry major. I do a lot of chemistry for sure. I don't get to take too many biology courses here at Albright within my major. A lot of them are electives. One of the classes I don't get to take is 152, where you talk about some of the things we talked about in this class. And I don't have to take a field course, but it was something I wanted to take just to better myself, just to have a better understanding of just things I may not have learned in some of the more general biology classes, or I'm certainly not going to learn them in my chemistry classes. So that was something just to broaden my horizons and just to explore, see if it's something that I do like. And I definitely did enjoy it. Another aspect was I really enjoy Spanish. So that's something that I've really wanted to force myself to sit down and practice it. Like my neighbor he's Puerto Rican, and it's always very intimidating because I know he knows English, so we'll go back and forth.
Right.
And then we'll just kind of break down and go to English. But whereas when I was talking with one of the housekeepers, they really didn't know English, so I was forced to really break down and try to understand what they were saying.
So you had to be the adaptive one.
Exactly. So that was really nice to get that practice in. I think overall, though, with just the layout of this course, I really enjoyed being able to just experience something new that I wouldn't have gotten to just with my regular course requisites.
Right, or even with the acres that you've done.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
I know you, of course, as a researcher into bats and their ecological niches as well. Yeah. Tia, how did it fit in with your field of study?
Well, I'm bio and then
Right.
pre-vet, so
Pre-vet,
even
yeah.
with the vet, like I like being out in the field because it does require going outside sometimes, especially if you're a large animal. So being used to the outdoors is a good thing. And I have taken other field biology courses and I really enjoy it. So it fit nicely within my major.
Right.
So
Sort of confirm things that you knew about
Yeah.
the world and knew about
Right.
yourself as well. Yeah. And Elise, how did it work for you?
Well, I'm a biology and Spanish major, so not only did it help with my biology, like doing research like that and being participating in field courses like that, because I also enjoy it as well. It helped me practice my Spanish while we were down there, which was fantastic, because it's like very hard to practice here, because like Justin said, it's very intimidating going up to someone like who you know most likely speaks English
Right.
anyway. But down there, like they usually don't, so it really forces you to practice, which helped me a lot.
So that's perfect.
Yeah.
That made sense of both halves of your major. Great. We do have some illustrations here, and you mentioned that you were in different parts of Costa Rica, so maybe we should look at the map and you can indicate.
Yeah, so this first, this image shows where we stopped. So we started off in the northern part of Costa Rica in Arenal, which is a volcano. And then we stayed there for a few days, and they actually, it's a very nice observatory. And the volcano had been erupting from the 1970s through about 2005.
Okay.
And so the observatory has then since been converted into a nature center. And so we got to see a lot of really nice animals there up close and things like that. And it's
As different life forms reclaim that area.
And it's also a very different habitat than where our property is. Our property is down in near the Osa Peninsula, which is in the southwestern section. So from Arenal, we went to Manuel Antonio, which is one of the most heavily visited national parks. And so being there was really neat because the animals there are very used to crowds.
Yeah.
And so we actually got very close
Performers.
to many of the animals. And that's where we actually saw their national mammal, which is the white-tailed deer. Which we thought was very interesting.
We thought Pennsylvania was special. Yeah.
But also saw sloths and raccoons there and things like that.
And coatimundis.
Yeah, the quadrimundis actually we saw at Arenal.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, things like that they see a lot of and they don't think much of. We got to see, and we planned this route deliberately so we could show the students the various biomes, biological areas in Costa Rica.
Within Costa Rica.
And get them practice observing organisms out in the field and identifying them with their field guides and things like that before we got to the property. Each pair of students had their own project that they were in charge of. All the students did all the projects, or at least participated in some of them. But we had 2 students doing plants, we had 2 students doing mammals, 2 students doing insects, a couple doing birds, and a couple are doing bats. And so we were really looking at all those organisms at the property. But we wanted to give them some practice of identifying things where they were easy to be seen and had guides and things to help identify them before we got to the property.
Right. So you brought these, were they written guides or were they apps on your phone or?
They were actually field guides.
Field guides. Good old paper guides. Right.
There's a definite skill to being able to use field guides well out in the field. And it takes a lot of practice. And so these stops beforehand, besides just seeing great scenery and neat animals and things, gave the students good practice in being able to use those field guides quickly.
Excellent.
So,
And you had field glasses with you as well.
A lot of birding.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. Just the number and the. I mean, I'm still not very good at identifying birds, but the students that spent the most time with it were amazing, because it's just like, oh, look, yellow, and so it takes a lot of practice.
So your own senses become attuned to the environment and start noticing things.
It's really interesting.
It was really interesting because the students who were doing birding, it got to the point where they would, you would think like a toucan or a parrot or something would stand out. They don't. They blend in really well, and it takes a lot of practice to be able to see.
So that confirms evolution, doesn't
it? Absolutely. You think of these brightly colored birds, and up here, sure, they would stand out, but down there's so much color and vibrancy that it really is difficult. But we saw neat things like the chestnut mandible toucan, the rainbow-billed toucan, oropendulas, all these fascinating birds which a lot of the students, you see pictures of and you want to see, and the first time you see, I remember the first time we saw the toucan, students were all excited, and then they got to the point, it's another toucan.
Right. And there's something about seeing them at their home rather than in a zoo.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great. Elise, what did you specialize in? What species were you going after?
Justin and I specialized in plants.
Okay.
So ours, I think, was definitely one of the more difficult ones. Like, you wouldn't think that with plants, but the field guides for them are, you have to know what you're looking for in them before, you even start looking. So it's definitely difficult for us. But once we, knew what we were looking for in, the certain areas during our research, it definitely got easier. So, but yeah. And they were all really cool, different from at home.
And was this an actual rainforest that you were in?
Yes,
kind
of.
Well, the area that our property is in is actually part of the tropical dry forest. And so relative to here, yes, it's wet. But it is a drier area, and we're actually on what used to be an old farm.
Okay.
And
one of that's grown back.
Right, and certain areas have grown back. Certain areas are still actively farmed.
Oh.
And so that's one of the things that we were doing, is comparing the communities in those 2 areas. But the students, doing the plants, would collect samples from around the property, and then they'd sit down at the table and spend hours looking at the plants and the taxonomy books and things, and trying to figure out what they are. And I warned them about this, that it was going to be a challenge going in. And
it was more more intimidating than Spanish. It's like, look, it's green. They all are. I mean, there was certainly a lot of color, a lot of variation, but it was still very difficult at times. But it was
To pin them down.
Yeah.
Just in terms of leaf form and everything
we had
else.
the easiest job catching them.
Yes.
obviously.
That's right. Plants aren't as mobile as some of the other creatures. Birds are harder.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tia, what were you chasing?
My group was looking at the non-flying mammals. So we were attempting to trap mammals that were living in the area around the property. We caught one thing. That's the picture. That's a Tome's spiny rat.
Oh, that's a fierce-looking animal.
It's pretty big.
It actually has spines on its back.
That's you picking him up, right?
Yeah.
Got a good kick too. He jumped off my chest.
Yeah. And did a backflip off of Justin and ran away.
And how large is that?
He was about, 10 inches, not
Yeah.
including the tail?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was good size.
And teeth?
Yeah, but he was actually really mellow compared to some of the rats that I've caught up here, so.
Okay, well, yeah, no, I know that rodents are your thing, but you only found one.
We only caught one on site, yes.
Okay.
And see, that's what we learned by being there. I mean, here we set traps and we catch mice, and it's like, yeah.
This is
that
where
was
mice
easy,
live, yeah.
right? Put food out, and they're all attracted to the traps. And there, it was just like, well, maybe I could eat that over here instead. And it was, we didn't know that. I mean,
Right.
that was part of the whole learning experience for all of us. That we kind of go into this with sort of a preconceived idea. Well, if we do lines of traps, we'll be able to kind of see what's in different places. And it's like, okay. So what else can we do? Or what should we use as bait? Or
So the
how
stuff
else
you
might we
were
do
bringing
this?
isn't any more delicious than what's provided in the wild?
No.
As far as we can tell.
That's really it. That's a great
Yeah.
conclusion.
Yeah. And I think that was probably a good thing for the students to see also, because we didn't, and like when you do a lab especially, but even when you set up a research project, you pretty much have an idea of how things are going to go. And when you're someplace new and trying something new, maybe it goes that way and maybe it doesn't. And so that's part of it, is to kind of say, okay, well, this isn't working, so what else can we do? How does that work? And for some students, that's supremely frustrating. And for other people, that's the challenge. And that's part of it. That's the excitement. It's like, I'm gonna get this.
Yeah.
So it's
And
fun.
that was actually one of the interesting things with us is up here in Pennsylvania, Karen and I actually do a lot of studies at the same sites.
Right.
And I'm always catching things, all over the place, and she struggles to catch the bats.
Yeah, yeah,
Down there, it was completely the opposite.
yeah.
In one night, your record was 7 different species?
7 different species. And
And-
here in Pennsylvania, there are only, in its heyday, there are only 9 different species. And we caught 7
some of
one
them were
night.
threatened.
Yes, and
Yeah.
right now there are probably only 3 or 4 that we can still catch reliably.
Yeah.
And so this is a vampire bat, and they had all along the students would
Wear
think,
gloves, I see.
of course, we're going to catch a vampire. And I kept saying we're not going to catch a vampire. Mostly fruit bats, also some insect eating and some nectivorous bats. But we're not going to catch a vampire. And we caught so many bats in the night that we caught the vampire in one of the nets that we actually did exactly what you're not supposed to do in the field. We stood in front of the nets to take our measurements and to take our pictures, so we wouldn't catch anything else. It was just stay away. And then we were walking back, and they're going, "Oh, there's another bat in this net," and I thought, "Oh, are you kidding me?" And then they're like, "It's a vampire." I'm going, "It's not a vampire." No, we're pretty sure it's a vampire. And the bat turned and looked. It's like, it's a vampire. There you go. So that was pretty exciting.
That's super exciting.
Very exciting.
Yeah. And did you leave your plants aside for a little while and check out your friends, the bats?
Actually, you go during the evening was bats. 'Cause I do the plants during the day, jump around every so often, but I do the bats every night. Like I was a photographer for the most part for those.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool. And it's like catching bats is always kind of like Christmas anyway. It's the same with the mammal traps because you don't really know what's going to be inside. But then here, because we kind of know what everything is, you go, oh, it's a big brown bat. Okay, good. Whereas there, it was like, wow, we caught something. What is it? And so then you spend time flipping through the guide going, well, it's one of these guys. And that was part of the fun, I think, just being able to kind of take that next step. Yeah.
Now, you guys are pretty experienced scientists. Did you have any newbies along on the class? Any people for whom this was a big surprise?
I don't think so.
In terms of the actual field work,
That's a good question, actually.
Part-
I don't think.
Part
I think
of it
everyone was
is
prepared.
we did limit who could apply, and
Okay.
we wanted experienced biologists that that Karen and I had experience working with. Because this was the first group, we wanted to
You
make
wanted
sure
to go
if
well.
anything went wrong, there were personalities and people that we knew what would happen and how we could deal with it. And so we admit we hand selected.
Well, they had to write an essay. I
Yes.
mean, we actually kind of just set the bar, but you kind of know who's going to meet that mark at some point.
right.
So everybody had to write an essay about how they thought this might fit in with their educational program, and so that helped a lot. It was kind of interesting.
And the station looked pretty pleasant in the pictures that I saw. There were verandas and balconies and large windows and places to consult your field guides before you go back out into the field.
Yeah.
It became home. It was I think it was a little traumatic at first because
Yeah.
we had been at this luxury resort and then
Oh, yeah, I
come down
remember
and here's the house with the 6 bunk beds. Like, really?
Yeah, back home, yeah.
But it worked. I think it worked really well because but they made it work. It was very fun.
And what sort of biological observations are you going to undertake in future years, do you think? What kinds of studies is this place going to support?
Well, I mean, partly we'll be just continuing what we've done and
Okay.
see how things change, and we're obviously going to modify our own techniques a little bit to be able to improve on that. But then also as the property changes, which happens so quickly down there, some the parts that aren't being managed are going to be continually changing over time, and so we'll have an opportunity to kind of explore that a little bit more. And of course, we banded all the bats that were there, so we're going to look for them.
Oh, okay. So return and see your friends next
Yes.
year.
So that's always part of it.
Great. And how far are you from the coast?
We're not very far at all. We're it's about actually straight line distance. It's probably only about half a mile from the coast. But
Really?
driving
Okay.
is a bit further. But there's a nice beach about 20 minutes away.
Yeah, so we went to the beach.
Is this a turtle beach, a sea turtle beach?
It's
This-
not.
this one is
actually,
not, no.
Okay.
But it was kind of nice. Yeah, and we were even there. The students, we just took them down in small groups to have like an afternoon off, and we were looking
Yeah.
at the toucans and it's like
And macaws.
and the macaws.
Yeah.
It's like, oh look, they're up in the almond trees.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like, look what we've learned. So it was very fun.
Great. And moving around within country was not too hard?
Right. We had a tour guide operator there, and they took care of getting us a bus and moving us all around. Except when we were at the property, we just had a small vehicle, and so we went out in small groups from the property. But for the traveling, between our major stops, we used the bus.
The bus.
So
Very good. Very good. Well, it sounds like it's just a wonderful time, and it's got me thinking ahead to future Januaries. You may need a historian photographer along. I'd be happy to read a field guide and get out there as well. So this is wonderful. As I said, it was a warming and informing experience, and I'm glad that you all learned so much and came back wiser and happier. Great. I'm glad you were with us as well. Thank you for joining us on this edition of the Albright Scholar, and we'll see you again in the month of March. Good night.
If you listen to the critics, if you listen to your own doubts and call them reasons, you may never find the drive to go back to school. But a little change in direction, a new perspective, and the right program may make your successful new path a reality. The Accelerated Degree Program at Albright College. Start your degree or complete your degree 1 night a week in as little as 2 years. Albright College, a different way of thinking.